Hi everyone, we are Group 1 and we will be discussing St. Thomas Aquinas' 5 ways.
Who is St. Thomas Aquinas? He offered his 5 ways or proofs for the existence of God. He wrote the Summa as a textbook for men in their priestly formation. Although the 5 ways is slightly more than one page, it is the most commented section and some of the most well-known arguments for the existence of God.
Aquinas' intention is to show that there is something or other that, for instance, causes things but is itself uncaused, or something that is necessary and does not have that necessary existence for another. He did not intend the 5 ways to be demonstrations of a uniquely Christian God. He even warns us to not prove that God is true, since it will fall short and lead unbelievers to scoff. Additionally, he did not intend the 5 ways to show God is perfect, good, mutable, eternal, powerful, knowledgeable, or even that there is such a thing. The first way is the argument from motion. There are three sources of accidental change that Aristotle differentiates: change of location, an example is a person moving across a room; change in quality, like the temperature rising up; and change in quantity, an example is the abundance of food. Anything changed in one of these ways is changed by something else. In changing, the first thing either is itself changed or remains changeless. However, a series of changing changes cannot proceed infinitely, since there must be a first unchanging being, and that being we call God. He considers the common objection that a thing can move itself by saying that such cases are instances of a part moving a whole and not a thing moving itself. Aquinas believes that God initiates motion without itself being moved by others. God can fatten a man without himself being fattened. The second way is the argument from causation. An ordered series is a series in which the causal work of later members in the series depends on the simultaneous causal work of earlier members. An example of this is a kettle. When the fire heats the kettle, it simultaneously heats the water inside of it, making it an ordered series since the kettle's water depends on the fire. In every case of ordered efficient causes, the first is a cause of ordered efficient causes, and the intermediate is the cause of the last, and this regardless of whether the intermediate is constituted by many causes or by just one. Aquinas argues with the gear image that the system cannot be gears all the way back.
Next is the argument from possibility and necessity. So Aquinas states that something necessary is not subject to generation or corruption, and it exists, but it does not come into existence by composition, and it cannot cease existing by way of decomposition. So, in a way, it can be observed that many things in the universe come into existence and eventually cease to exist. For example, try to imagine a group of people, and each individual or person can be born and can die. So, if every being were contingent, meaning accidental or up to chance, then there would have been a time when nothing existed. Like mentioned in the first arguments, something can't come from nothing. So there must be a necessary being, which Aquinas refers to as God, who has always existed and is not contingent. So next is the fourth way, or the argument for gradation. This states that any comparative predictions of a property entail that there exists something that is maximally that property. So if you consider the concept of goodness, we can say that one person is good in comparison to another who is less good. This comparison implies that there is a supreme goodness or an ultimate source of goodness against which all other goodness is measured. And essentially, the fourth way asserts that the existence of varying degrees of qualities in the world, such as kindness, suggests a perfect being that embodies those qualities to the fullest extent. The fifth and final way is the argument from governance. Here, Aquinas argues that if things always, or for the most part, act for a particular end, that is evidence of their being directed at that end by an intelligent agent. An example for this is how our body works. Let's get more specific and talk about the human eye. So, the human eye is an incredibly complicated organ with various parts that work together seamlessly to enable vision for a person. It has a lens that focuses light, a retina that detects light and color, and a nervous system that processes what we see into visual information to our brain. So each part has a specific function contributing to the overall purpose of seeing. So, according to Aquinas, something with such complexity to achieve a certain purpose suggests that there must be an intelligent designer who intended for the human eye to function this specific way.
Anselm's ontological argument. Saint Anselm is a member of the Benedictine order and Bishop of Canterbury, extended the Augustine tradition of seeking to believe in order to understand the truth and existence of God, rather than seeking to understand in order to believe in the truth and existence of God. Many theologians avoid trusting reason from the fear of the specter of skepticism. However, Anselm believes reason is necessary to elucidate and validate faith. Anselm is considered the father of scholastic philosophy. Scholasticism was the dominant approach to philosophical and theological problems during the medieval period, which nothing greater can be conceived, cannot exist in the understanding alone, than it can be conceived to exist in reality, which is greater. An example of this is a painter. When a painter thinks of the piece that he'll do later, he has it in understanding, but does not yet understand it to be, because he hasn't performed it yet. But after he made the painting, both has it in his understanding, and he understands that it exists because he made it. It is possible to conceive of a being which cannot be conceived not to exist, and this is greater than one which can be conceived not to exist. An example of this is a perfect architect. Consider the architect as talented but could easily not exist. You can imagine a world where this architect never becomes an architect or simply doesn't exist. You cannot conceive of an ultimate perfect architecture without this architect existing. The necessary architect is greater than the contingent architect because the former cannot be imagined as not existing. If the necessary architect were to only exist in your mind, you could conceive of an even greater architect, one that actually exists. A thing may be conceived in two ways: one, when the word signifying it is conceived; two, when the thing itself is understood. As far as the word goes, God can be conceived not to exist. In reality, he cannot. So the main point is that while we can imagine God not existing, conceptual understanding, in reality, if we accept the definition of God, he must exist. This highlights the difference between just thinking about something and recognizing its existence in the real world. We hope that this helped you better understand St. Thomas Aquinas' five ways and St. Anselm's ontological argument. Thank you for watching and listening.